How long did it last? Real concentrated mental thought. Usually doesn't last that long. Or sometimes after 1 week, maybe we go back to the service through words and actions. But Baba in the last Muli, when he was speaking to the double foreigners, he had said that service through the mind is still, it's very, very little what is being done. And actually the increase of this practice will be able to fulfill the service needs. Remember he talked about that nature is screaming out, that time is calling, and the sorrowful souls are also calling. And Baba asked, what are we doing? And so service through the mind. Actually, someone was telling me, I don't remember if it was Daddy or someone was saying that actually first you have to serve the mind if the mind is going to be your server. That is, if the mind is going to be serviceable. And how do I serve my mind? I serve my mind by making sure that no rubbish enters the mind. Rubbish in the form of overthinking. And another thing is that thoughts are very often connected with feelings. So we overthink, we overfeel, we have stress, a lot of worry. For example, worry. Why do we get worry? In today's Muli, Baba spoke about that. It was selfish motives that create worries. It's like upheaval and fears are created by selfish desires. And so all of this flow of energy, this tremendous flow of energy, comes through the mind. And these days people have difficulty just to be able to relax their mind. Whereas Baba says actually you actually have to use your mind for service, for spiritual service. So very often I, the soul, do not have control over my mind. I can't keep it concentrated because without concentration there cannot be service through the mind. Without concentration I cannot go deep, neither into my original sanskars nor in my connection with Baba. Without concentration, true concentration, the soul is not able to harness other energy. It's not able to get and absorb pure energy, which comes from the original sanskars, and especially it comes from Baba. And so what does Baba say? How do we, first of all, to make the mind serviceable, Baba says, detoxify. How do we detoxify the mind? Of course, we understand that the mind is not working alone, is it? It's also working with intellect, and especially its big ally, sanskars. The mind and sanskars have very, very good companionship, and they don't break it. But, when there's the influence of any of the vices, then the mind just goes in so many different directions, and we not only have waste thoughts and wasteful feelings, but we also waste time. We also waste opportunities. We also are not able to have that connection with God. So what's the detox program? Because thought and time are very connected. Thought and consciousness, consciousness and time, all these things are interconnected. And Baba has been giving us a detox program that actually if we do this subtle effort, we do become more powerful. Because we do have a lot of knowledge, but remember at the beginning of the yagya, they didn't have a lot of knowledge, but what did they have? They had a lot of bhavna, had a lot of love, and a lot of enjoyable practice. They enjoyed practicing that they are souls and they are connected to the Supreme Soul. But what is the actual program that Baba has been giving lately? It's to do with time and it's to do with consciousness. He says, 1 second, 1 thought. Before it used to be 1 minute, but now he says 1 second, 1 thought. Because if I can hold a thought for a second, then it goes into a second, into a third second, into a fourth second. If I can hold that pure thought, the longer I can hold that thought, then the more I am able to do service of myself and of course service of others. So do I practice this? 1 thought, 1 second. You can even link it to your breath sometimes, just 1 breath. And how can I control my thought and the second? I have to always become introspective and watch. Introspective and watch. Introspective and the observer. Many times during the day. Baba's told us 12 times in the last Muli. And if I'm able to step in, that is, become introspective and observe my mind, gradually I'll start to be able to master my mind. And then I am able to watch the thought I create. Because very often it's not I, the soul, that am creating the thoughts. The thoughts are being created by themselves through reactions to sanskars and through just deeper sanskars that are already there. It's an extremely crucial, I would say crucial exercise. And so checking, Baba says, check. How often do I do this during the day? Have you been checking? Sometimes? Have you been checking, like observing the mind, observing my mind, I the soul observing my mind? Because what happens, what's the normal thing, is we just keep creating thoughts, and then the feelings, and then the actions. Never is there a break. And if I don't put a break, I will never become subtle. If I don't put a break, I will never be elevated into the angelic consciousness. My mind will not become serviceable if I don't put a break, no matter how much knowledge I have. This is the key dharana. This is the doing I have to do inside. There's the doing I do outside with actions and words. But the inner doing, that creative doing, is called dharana. And from what Baba has been telling us, the key dharana at this time is 1 thought, 1 second. And this will make me ever ready for all the unexpected things that can come. Because with 1 thought, I can stabilize. But if I'm affected and I'm influenced, I am pulled into that and I can create so many thoughts. Then, without stability, I can't serve. In fact, without stability, I have to be served by others. Others have to give me peace. Others have to give me respect. Others have to give me something. But there's 1 second, one thought. And if I'm really able to start to observe and then master my thoughts, then Baba has said that you move from thought to awareness. And I remember in one of the Murlis of last season, he says, you have all become the embodiment of thoughts, but not the embodiment of awareness. For example, the thought, I am a soul, I am peaceful, it's a thought, but if that thought is not concentrated and I go deep into it, I just keep creating those thoughts. But when the thought is concentrated and it becomes very stable, goes very deep, then that thought transforms itself into awareness, the I am consciousness, the Om Shanti consciousness. Om, I am. This is the awareness. I no longer create thoughts to get there. I am that. I am peace. I am love. And when I am in a state of awareness, that is, when I'm looking at the outside drama from the inside, when I have that awareness, then whatever is the need of the outside, I have the discernment and the inner power to create whatever thought and feeling is necessary to serve the need of the situation. But if I myself am influenced by it, I can't serve it. What I'm influenced by, I can't serve. And so, for example, it's chaotic. There's sorrow, there's upheaval. I'm aware of that. It's not that I don't see it. But then I create, as an instrument, as a server, I can create that thought, that energy, let's say, of peace. And that energy, the more concentrated it is, the more it vibrates and penetrates the atmosphere of the surroundings. So that one thought in that 1 second becomes longer and longer in time and in intensity. And the power of that thought, the power of that feeling, whether it is peace or love or harmony, whatever it may be, this is the type of service that is required now. Baba has often spoken of service through the power of silence. What is this power of silence? It's its thoughts and it is feelings expressed in positive energy to the outside and expressed also through the eyes. Mind and eyes are the way that a soul is able to become serviceable. And so if I'm practicing 1 second, one thought and observing, if I get into this rhythm and work with time and, my own mind, then I'll be able not only to detoxify my mind and also my heart, because I'll do that at the same time, I will also at the same time be able to protect it. And I, the soul, decide which thoughts I allow. So as we reflect on this, reflect on it, the difference between creating a thought and through that thought creating awareness and remaining stable in that awareness. And the stability of that spiritual awareness creates actually a canopy. Often Baba speaks of the canopy of protection. Because I'm aware of I, the soul, I'm aware of my Father. And this connection, this connectedness creates this field of energy. And people will feel it or see it as angelic light. But a very deep and subtle practice is required for this. It will not happen just through a class or a seminar, and I can read, a muli 20 times. It will improve my understanding, which is important, but until I practice what Baba says in that muli, I will not grow in experience. I will not really have that experience, and I will not have that power to be able to serve. Because one thing is to keep the self peaceful and balanced, but it is another thing as to also give that peace and balance to the outside. And so what are the things that actually block this accumulation of subtle power, or let's say the experience of this subtlety? Because the most powerful things are always subtle. God is subtle. God is not seen, but he is felt. All the qualities, they are not seen in themselves, but they are felt. Actually, anything is felt, whether it's anger, whether it's love, whether it's peace, whether it's dishonesty. You feel these things. But we're talking about now of increasing the subtlety. And what blocks it? What blocks this development? This practice, which is actually quite easy to understand and which really will make me the master of the drama, the master of the scenes of the drama, that will give me that power to truly be ever ready and make me unshakable, unbreakable, immovable. These are not just pretty words. These are facts of reality to the one who has developed that subtle power through that exercise. But what are the blocks? Probably the biggest block for this subtle power is actually routine. We get into, and we live on, and we live through routines. And the thing is that because a routine is not bad in itself, or it's not highly negative, it doesn't disturb. Whereas, something is very gross, like for example, if I get very angry or get very emotional, actually we make more of an effort to do something. But when it's just a routine from habit, we don't usually put the same attention. So routine in speaking, routine in thinking, routine in acting. And this is what Baba says. He says, actually, in order to develop subtlety, become karma yogis. And karma yogis is not simply peeling potatoes or washing floors and things like that. Karma yoga means that the actions I am performing are done in an elevated consciousness, whatever it may be. This preserves the subtlety. Why? Because elevated consciousness means I'm doing it as an instrument, but basically I'm doing it in a state of being detached from any desire result. And result can be approval from others, getting value from others, from being successful in this or that. Because if these things start to influence me in a subtle way, my mind then comes into a gravity and it can't move. No matter how much I may have the desire for true effort or good intention, if I let any subtle desires that come in my actions, those wrong desires come inside me in a very subtle way, they will influence and they pop up. I get upset when there's not a particular result. I get upset when something is not the way I had expected. All these things will block, because yet I'm not free. And so when we do the routine things in wrong consciousness, or let's say not in wrong consciousness, but ordinary consciousness, and I don't realize it's ordinary consciousness, it keeps me where? It keeps me in the same position. And there's nothing more frustrating than being in the same position, but you have ideals to reach. I don't know if it's traffic control or not. It doesn't look like from the time. So I must be careful of becoming ordinary. And the only way I can do that is actually watch the consciousness with how I do things, why I do them, how I speak. For some people it's very normal to speak a lot or think a lot. They may not say bad things, but it is a waste of time and a waste of energy. Until if they realize that actually to cut it down, to have more economy, will give them more power. Until they realize this, they just go on like that. So there's no conserving of subtle power. Because when I really grow in subtle power, then my mind will speak. My lips don't have to. And what does Baba often say? Your face will do service. And of course another obvious block to the subtle is, it's selfish motives and attachments. And they usually go together. They're twins. Usually born at the same time. Because to be attached to something, there's a selfish motive or there's a selfish need in it. And attachment can be, attachment, we can call it another word, we call it dependency. Another word is subservient. Another word is, I'm a subject. People ask, what is a subject soul? This is a subject soul. The one who remains attached, who remains dependent, who remains subservient, and continues to choose not to be free. They don't choose to start to master themselves. Because, why? Usually it's comfortable or it's convenient to be in a state of dependency, even if at times they get sorrow. So attachment can be, it can be on different levels, the gross attachment is to other people, to things, to name, to position. It is the drive trying to find a value or a sense of identity through sticking to these things. And it's a complete self-sabotage, Like, forget about becoming subtle. I don't even become myself. Because Baba has told us through his knowledge, you will never gain value through another. You can't get your sense of identity through another, not just another or through a thing or through simply a talent or a success. You are a soul. And it is to that and the qualities of that that I have to return. So that's one form of attachment and selfishness. And then another is actually a more subtle type of attachment, you know. Sometimes the attachment to service. How can you tell if you have attachment to service? You don't like anybody else doing what you think you should be doing. Or you think, this is my project, this is my student, this is my, you know. It means there's attachment to service. Will I become subtle? Will that service be pure then? And as we go deeper and deeper into purity and into soul consciousness, we understand that actually the true service is my state of being, how I am and what I am. And of course, the quality of my relationship with Baba. That is the basis of service. Because what is service? What is it? It's to make the best project, to make the most impressive speech, is to get the biggest applauses. What actually is service? I mean, real service is to be just a catalyst or an instrument for souls to return to themselves, to return back to their self-respect, to return to their relationship with God, and to be liberated from themselves. I mean, to be liberated from their old selves that gives them sorrow. In true service, there's no strings. Now, if a soul is attached to service, if it needs service, then there's always going to be conflicts and problems and comparisons. And then is that service? Is that subtle service? But we'll talk about doing subtle service. Is that subtle service? Sometimes attachment to knowledge. Just to know and know and know and know and know and know and read and read and read and make 1,000 workshops and 1,000 workshops. Which again, everything is useful, of course, but then when it gets to when is it a dangerous point? When I do not apply and just keep reading and reading and talking and discussing and discussing, that's the dangerous point. And thinking and thinking and thinking. Yes, I need to think, I need to discuss, I need to read, but then the next step, application. Constantly. Not only when I feel down, constantly. And then I'm using knowledge rather than being attached to knowledge. And, you know, the attachment where we make things or people our support and we forget Baba. Or even more dangerous when, I don't realize I'm doing it to be a support for others. Often people think this word support is a very positive thing. From God it is. Between people at the confluence age, as Baba's student and as Baba's instrument, I have to try to show people how to take support from God and take support from the best in themselves. I can facilitate that, yes. I'm responsible out of love to facilitate that for my brothers and sisters, but I'm not their support. Otherwise, that's how the whole system of bhakti begins. Support from here, support from there, support from the other. And then, gradually the souls become buckets of love rather than bestowers of love. Baba says, be a bestower. To serve through the mind is to be a bestower, not a bucket. And every time we complain about people not showing us respect or appreciation, when it's a signal, yeah? Oh, now I'm a bucket of love. How am I going to be a bestower? How am I going to serve through the mind? Through the heart as well. And one word that Baba often uses for this, in order to become a true bestower, is the word complete. Become whole, become healthy, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Complete. No holes there. No needs because of the vices. Become complete. Because only when I am complete can I fully cooperate with others. Otherwise, if I'm not complete and I'm cooperating with others, there's always some kind of taking needed. And this taking, or this relying or dependence, does create eventually conflicts or bad feelings. When Baba says Om Shanti, remember the Father and consider yourself to be a soul. This is the package. It's not a good word, but this is the formula, however we like to say it, to becoming complete. And so before I can become complete, I have to be connected. And in the mornings, Amrit Vela, in my early morning meditation, this is what we're doing, becoming connected in order to be purified. Baba purifies the soul so that it returns to its complete state. Purification is dissolving the needs created by attachments, by ego, by lust, by anger, and all the many other things that come from this, fears and intense desires, which create so much upheaval. So in the early morning, I, the soul, come to the Father with love. Not just as the soul experience the wonder of this original relationship, but in catching that current is purified of neediness and selfishness. So it's a very beautiful thing that happens in Amrit Vela. It's a very wonderful experience of the relationship, and we all need to experience relationship, not just know about it. But at the same time as the soul is experiencing that relationship, it's also automatically being cleaned. But this has to be kept up systematically. It can't be done just once in a while. So as there is this connection, and of course this connection is best done, when is it best done? In the incorporeal stage. When I move away from seeing, hearing, speaking, doing, and I'm really sitting in that seed stage and going home and connecting to the incorporeal Father and receiving that current. It's a great fortune, and it's a great opportunity, and it's a great blessing of this time to be able to have this direct connection, because it's very liberating. The love from a pure source is always liberating. Love from an impure source is always suffocating. This is why people have so many problems in their relationship. Even a good relationship, there are always times when they fight or quarrel, because the sources are not clean. God never fights with the soul. I'm sure you've noticed that. just, so let me be in the early morning, make this journey of love and to be connected. And sometimes it may be a little bit difficult, but if I keep at something, I start to find ways to do it properly. And this is the question I must ask myself, do I prioritize this connection? Because what I prioritize, I will give my time and attention to, and my energy to. And the response will also be very big. If I prioritize this relationship, especially of the early morning experience, the response will also come. It's like any even a Lokic person, if they prioritize dancing, that's the priority in their life above everything else, the response of all of that will be that they will become very good in what they're doing. But if they split it up in so many different things, well, they'll get something, but not so much or not so deeply. So if the soul understands time, it will prioritize the type of consciousness it needs to create to connect with the one that all humanity has been calling God or the purifier or the beloved, whatever. And it is in this connection that we gradually do become complete. It is a reality. And when the soul starts to be complete, then it will start to feel combined. Like, you think of Brahma Baba and Shiv Baba, Brahma Baba connected with Shiv Baba constantly, consistently. He prioritized this relationship and he became purer and purer, cleaner and cleaner. He had to make that effort. Of course, it was yoga, but also during the day he had to watch his actions and the way he related to others, as we all do. All spiritual students must also watch their actions. One thing is the yoga, but the other thing is watching the type of actions I'm performing. And so as Brahma Baba made this practice, he did become complete, and when he was complete, he could combine with Shiv Baba, and so we get Bab Dada, the Supreme and the Angel. And to combine doesn't mean mixing up. No. One complete being comes together with another complete being. They fit, they integrate without disturbing or trespassing one on the other. Now these days when people try to combine, they get into each other's sanskars and try to take this and take that, and they need this and they need that, and it's a jungle. It's a jungle. And then people feel tired of it, they feel sick of it, they want change. But when two souls who are complete start to combine, they integrate very well. And then the next step, in a good combination, companion. They become companions. And in the state of companionship, in the state of this very respectful friendship, then they are able to perform the task. And the task of the Father, the task of the Angel, is actually upliftment, renewal, taking away the sorrow, dissolving the sorrow, and bringing things back to their original state, so that eventually every soul, no matter where it may come in the cycle, will have its right to happiness and its right to peace. This is the task. So Baba says service through the mind, but it involves these things. It's not just sitting with the thought, it's also sitting with your state of being as well. And when in that feeling, because it's no longer knowledge anymore, it has become feeling, and so in that feeling of companionship, then yes, the soul takes on the angelic form of light and serves through that. And it feels, yes, what Baba often says, that he is Karvan Karavan Ha. He's the one who does and makes you do. He's the one that moves and makes you move. And that's all we have to do. We have to be in just the position, the right position, and it's the loving position, the position of feeling fulfilled in this combined form, then Bab Dadak are able to move the soul, and not a lot of thinking is required. Because sometimes people ask, where to go, what to do, should we send, should we not? I mean, no. There's very little thought. There's just the awareness of being in your... It's like being in your uniform. And you can identify somebody always by the uniform they're wearing. If it's a policeman, if it's an air hostess. And so when people see some of Baba's children in their complete form and in their uniform of light, yes, that's an angel. And they feel peace and they feel hope. They are not disturbed. They never feel fear. So Baba moves the soul, and yes, the soul becomes his lighthouse. And light, everyone trusts light. Because there's one of the things that is missing in the world today is they don't trust, so they don't know where to go. They don't believe all the different things they're being told. But when there's that experience of real light, then souls don't have doubts in their mind. They can see it from the face and from the aura. This soul really belongs to God. And so this is service through the mind. Not difficult, is it? Yeah, it looked like a very, okay, we get this vision of the angel, the lighthouse, and it's been done because it's recorded in Bhakti. So it has been done, actually. It's just being reenacted. So we get this, lighthouse, angel, companion, feeling of being complete. But just the starting point, 1 second, one thought. Where do you start? Got to start somewhere. It's up there, but how do you reach there? And the first step is this: I've got to observe each thought. I've got to observe each feeling and refine it. So time and thought, these are the greatest treasures we have, time and thought. So that's the building block that Baba has given us. A thought and a second. And as I get it right, each block, because I have to refine and build on a daily basis. And then, yes, that lighthouse is created. It won't just happen. It will be created according how I use my time and what consciousness I create in time. Because sometimes people say, well, how do you make it practical? That's how. But the practical sometimes is very subtle, and so I miss it because I'm still very much moved by my physical senses. What I hear, what I see, what I touch, this is reality. What I hear, what I feel, what I understand, the reality. But actually, maybe much more subtle than this. So Baba gives this practice. And what's there left to do? Just do it. That's all, just to do it. And I start, at any point in time I can start. But sometimes what happens is I start, but along the way, my consciousness is distracted. Either I become too emotional, I become too intellectual, I get too entangled in my karmic things, subtle distractions. Sometimes they're not so subtle, but I get distracted. And this is the major problem. The major problem is not that I don't know, not that I can't do, not that I don't have the capacity, not that Baba is not giving me the cooperation. The main obstacle is I get distracted. It's the main thing, the main problem. And of course, even a sanskar, distracts me. And the biggest distraction from sanskar, one is that I don't see it, and I just keep working on it. Another thing is I see it, but I see it too late, and it already has done its damage. It takes me 2 or 3 days to get back again. And another distraction is with the sanskar is that I battle with it all the time. I don't want it, but I battle with it all the time. And Baba has told us the solution. Why do you try to purify yourself? It's not your job. It's my job. So, give it to me. This is called surrender. If I trust enough, if I love the pure enough, I will surrender it. And then it can be purified. Because if I get into battle with sanskars, it's a huge distraction, because that battling becomes a habit. Plus, I may make the mistake of thinking that battling is making effort. It's not at all. To go up and down, and around, and around. This is not effort. Fluctuate one day, feel good 2 days, fluctuate another day. No, this is not effort. It actually is a big wastage of, again, time. So the solution to that is, people ask, how do you stop this biggest distraction of all? Because, sanskars create big emotions, don't they? And this is when I have to have enough practice of observing to be able to see it. The emotion may still come, but I'm not controlled by it. It's one thing, it comes and you see it. It's another thing, it just overwhelms you, and you get lost in that feeling. So when a sanskar becomes a distraction from that, the subtle practice, yes, and then the distraction is this particular a very strong sanskar. Sometimes Baba uses another word besides surrender, and he uses that word swahar. It means sacrificing. Because sometimes I surrender and, half. And I remember one person told me, what's wrong with a bit of attachment now and then? And it's normal to be attached to this and to that. Well, according to how you choose, you will reap the fruit. This is what's going to happen. And to sacrifice is that I see the alternative that Baba is giving, and that certainly I have experienced, we have all experienced it. That memory is there, otherwise we wouldn't keep motivated if we didn't have some kind of experience. But to really finish it, this sacrifice, this swaha means, I just make the decision. I know what is, I want what is better, even though this may be pulling me a lot. I know what is better. And if it's too strenuous to choose, just be patient. Of course, Baba sometimes says, what does he say? do it, cut it all at once, which is actually more effective. But in order to be able to cut something at once, like you make a decision, this is the swaha, the sacrifice, they say they say in bhakti, when they sacrifice a goat, that they say it has to go in one swoop. It can't be left suffering. It must finish straight away. So Baba says with the sanskaras, some of these very strong ones, this is how, it's best. But how can you do it, boom, like that, in one swoop sometimes? Because sometimes some of them you can't. It's very much linked. One thing is it's linked to the level of love. How much really I love what God is, and I want to be worthy of that relationship. Another is, to really value something much higher in myself. And the other thing is not to really want it. But I know that's easier said than done, because there's all these little voices sometimes says, "Oh, it's okay, it's not that bad, it's too much." So sometimes I need just to be very patient and cool, and not think about it too much, and then come back to it next day. But not come back to the battle, but keep practicing that, that one stabilizing my thought in time, one thought, 1 second. And then as I grow stronger, I'll be able to see the distraction and gradually get rid of it. So some things, according to our personality, something we can finish instantly. Some things take a little bit of time. But whatever time it takes, every day there's certainly a progress. So surface of the mind, that's the beginning block, that's how we begin. And then all those other things will naturally come. I think one of the things that we want most of all is something that is more natural. Not artificial effort, not artificial experience, but natural effort, which is actually just attention, and then natural experience. Natural experience of spiritual love or spiritual peace. That means I don't have to manipulate anything to get it. I just stay in the right position and I start to receive it. And it helps me to transform. And so silence is where the mind finds its greatest healing. Silence is the quarantine for the mind. And for the feelings as well. And silence is where I meet myself. And in silence is where I meet my Father. And in silence I meet my destined form. What is your destined form? The angelic form, the deity form. Brahma Baba saw it quickly, and he worked to that. He had something to work to. It was a very real aim for him, and it was real for him. And so in silence, we find many solutions. And silence is not to go numb. In silence, actually, we become very aware. And in silence, in real silence, we create. We create the link. And in that link, in that silence, we also feel the original in everything. The original, the true, the pure in everything, whether in the self, whether in God, whether in others, whether in nature, whether with time. So, let's experience now building, this one thought, 1 second, and of course, yes, it grows, and to the incorporeal and to the angelic.